Good people of Minnesota, welcome to the channel where we keep the facts tight, the fears low, and the community first. So today we are focusing on three major things that are shaping our streets, things that are shaping our living rooms right now. ICE activity, President Trump's threat to invoke the Insurrection Act over protest in Minneapolis, the federal move to withhold major Medicaid funding from Minnesota. These are three big things that are occupying our streets right now. And then I'm closing with practical safety and know your rights guidance. Things that you can actually use in order to stay safe, in order to keep yourself and other people protected. So what exactly is happening with ICE activity and why people are on the edge?
Dr. G. Real stories, real people. Unpacking the struggles, reclaiming the narratives with Dr. G.
First, the hot news, and we'll say it very plainly. Minneapolis has seen two shootings involving federal immigration operations in roughly 1 week, and both are now driving protest. They're driving political escalation, and real community fear is very eminent. Last week, that was January 7th, a federal immigration officer fatally shot Renee Good, a 37-year-old mother in Minneapolis. An incident that sparked sustained protest and national attention. Now, federal officials have framed that shooting as self-defense, while a ton of questions still loom from local officials and community witnesses, those who saw what happened, first-hand eyewitnesses. They have intensified their scrutiny around what happened and how accountability is being handled when federal agents use deadly force in a city neighborhood. And not too far from that, January 14th, a second incident just happened. This time in North Minneapolis, where an immigration agent shot and wounded a Venezuelan man in the leg after a traffic stop and reported struggle. The man ran from the stop. There was a bit of confrontation somewhere there that included a snow shovel. He fled into a home and he was later arrested after a standoff with multiple layers of law enforcement responding. Now, here is the honest part, and it matters. You see, when a situation is chaotic, very, very chaotic, every side rushes to tell the story first. Now, our job here and your job as a neighbor is to separate what is confirmed from what is claimed. Because confirmation, as you all know, takes time. And it should, because in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, rushed narratives have a way of becoming permanent scars. So wait for confirmations before you proclaim any kind of information. Let's look a little further beyond the shooting. What ICE activity is being reported around the metro area. It is obvious by this time that community concern is not only about two incidents. It is about the pattern that people believe they are seeing with these ICE agents, with these federal agents in the community. There have been multiple metro area flashpoints, including concerns about ICE presence near transit stops, and the community is reporting that families and students witness enforcement activity near a St. Louis Park Elementary School, which field calls for parents, field a lot of calls from parents for ICE to leave the area. Oh, but that's not all. There was also a major door knocking incident in South Minneapolis. It's around Powder Horn area, where community response networks sent alerts. A crowd gathered. Chemical agents were deployed all over the place. And 3 people were detained, including 2 citizen observers who were not targets of enforcement. And this is where I say, hey, if confusion were a sport, then misinformation would already have a championship ring. And a group chat would be its head coach. So this is for you. If you hear that ICE is here, I want you to pause. Pause long enough to ask these questions. Where? Doing what? Verified by whom? And what is the safest next step for my household? Now, moving on to something bigger, and this is really big, the Insurrection Act threat. What is that? And what does it mean for Minneapolis? Yeah, this is where the real political temperature begins to rise. So President Trump, if you don't know, has threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act in response to protests in Minneapolis. And he's saying that he would not mind deploying troops, if the state and local officials do not put an end to what he calls unrest in the city of Minneapolis and elsewhere in Minnesota. Now, just in case you're asking what is this Insurrection Act all about? It is a federal law that allows the president, under certain conditions, to deploy military domestically. And yes, it is a rare occurrence. It can be very rare for that to happen. And it can be very controversial, especially in times like this when we already have federal agents shooting people. And even the threat alone can change how protests feel on the ground, because it signals escalation rather than de-escalation. So watch out for it. And here is what local leaders are saying. They are urging calm and peaceful demonstrations. They are criticizing the skill and tactics of federal immigration enforcement in the city and the broader impact on residents who are not accused of any crime but are living under pressure and uncertainty every single day, every single moment. You go to the hospital where you'll find a queue. The place is empty. Service is very quick, snappy. And you're wondering why. People are canceling their medical appointments. Now, let me say this very clearly. Peaceful protest is a constitutional right. And violence is a shortcut that always leads to somebody's mother crying. And so if you show up with discipline, because the cameras are rolling and the consequences are real. We don't want to hear "had I known." You don't want to live to regret the other day. You don't want to live to regret today. So show up, be disciplined, stay far from the agents. If they approach, back off. This is a big one. This is a big one. Not only what we are seeing in the streets, but now the policy punch that hits household quietly until it does not. It's finally here. Medicaid funds are about to be held back for the state of Minnesota. Now, the Minnesota Department of Human Services says that Trump administration, through CMS Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz, is moving to withhold over $2 billion in annual Medicaid fund for Minnesota. And the state is formally appealing against that move.
We have also suspended nearly 8,000 SBA loans, Small Business Association loans, to suspected scammers in Minnesota, of which there are many. It's a great state. It was a great state. Now it's getting destroyed.
So Minnesota DHS calls the move unprecedented. They say it is not based on fact, and they argue that it will destabilize healthcare statewide. And yes, officials are saying that the Trump administration is doing this because of alleged state fraud and proven ones, of course, and program integrity. But the state officials are saying that they are listing the steps that Minnesota has taken, to be able to curb this, including identifying 14 high-risk services, creating a public integrity dashboard, auditing autism service providers with on-site visits, discontinuing housing stability services, placing a moratorium on adding new providers in those high-risk services. They said they have also increased prepayment reviews before fees for service payment go out. Now, the DHS also warns that cutting off this funding would be disastrous for 1.2 million Medicaid members in Minnesota. That's nearly half of them being children. And they say that the federal agency must now set a date for a hearing on the appeal. Because if that funding gets cut, it's going to affect your child's care. It's going to affect your child's clinical appointment. It's going to affect so many things medically for so many people. Now, if you're on medical assistance, here is the immediate takeaway. This is a government funding fight. It is not a letter saying that your coverage has ended. No, we're not saying that your coverage has ended today. Still, this is the season when scammers show up wearing the costume of officials. And we see them all over the place, changed phone numbers. Do not give your social security number or immigration details to any random caller who claims that they can fix your Medicaid problem, who claims that they can fix your Medicaid issue. Use official state channels. If you have any problem, you want to complain on anything concerning your Medicaid, make sure you're using official state channels. And if you get a notice that you do not understand, ask for help before you sign anything. Don't just go signing things. No. Now, safety and know your rights. Here are quick guidance that you can share with your family, you can share with your friends, with your co-worker. And I must put a disclaimer on this. I'm not your lawyer. Whatever I'm going to share here is general information. But remember, it is solid ground. The first one, if you're stopped by police or ICE, this is what I want you to know. You have the right to remain silent, and you should say it loud. The second thing you can do is you can refuse consent to a search of yourself, your car, your home, your business premise. The next thing you can do is ask if you are free to leave. And if the answer is yes, leave calmly. Don't leave in a hurry. Don't run. If you get arrested, ask for a lawyer immediately. And you can record law enforcement in public as long as you do not interfere with law enforcement activities. And let's say ICE comes to you at your home. Here is what you need to know. You do not have to open the door unless they show you a valid warrant signed by a judge. And you should read it carefully for the name and the address. If they do enter, do not resist. Because what we see in the streets now is force. They're dragging people from their cars. Keep your hands visible and keep the situation as calm as possible. And if you're at work and ICE happen to appear at your workplace, your school, or even in the neighborhood still, I want you to know, despite what you see in the street, rights apply regardless of immigration status, and guidance differ by setting. So rely on trusted legal organizations and local compilations rather than rumors. Now, if you're unsure whether you are dealing with police or immigration agents, some immigrant advocacy guidance recommends asking directly which agency they are with. So you can ask them, are you with the police or are you with ICE? Depending on what answer they give you, then you know how to proceed. Now, if you attend a protest, go with a buddy. Keep an exit plan ready. Keep your phone charged. And do not let adrenaline make decisions for you. Do not throw objects. Do not approach armed agents. Do not turn a protest into a stampede. If the goal is justice, discipline is the only language that justice understands. Now, Minnesota has a proud history of strong communities, strong laws, and strong disagreements handled without losing our humanity. And I want you all to count on these cultures. I want you all to count on this discipline. That is the tradition worth keeping. And it is also the future worth building. And so if you take nothing else from this, if you take nothing else from today's update, take this to heart. Verify before you amplify. Stay calm when pressure rises. And keep your rights close like a seatbelt, because you do need it. You may feel that, with or without my passport, they don't even ask for my citizenship, they don't even ask for my status, they just ransack everybody in the streets. Yeah. Keep your rights close to you. Keep your documents close to you. Carry your document if you need to. Nobody needs to go through this kind of rambling. And I know they don't even care. They don't even ask about your status. But carry your documents anyway. And until next time, this is All Things Immigrants and Society podcast. Thanks for watching. And I'm your host, Dr. G.
Dr. G. Real stories, real people. Unpacking the struggles, reclaiming the narratives with Dr. G.